Second. Oh, there we go.
Good morning. This is Kelley Hobart from Alpaca Direct, and I'm so glad to be home. We just got home from North Carolina, and I was working on the sweater that I was having problems with, and I decided to put that away for a little bit. And I'm working on a different project, and it is a little bit more relaxing, and it is called Wool Weaver by Kelley Hudson. Can you see that, Jim? It's a beautiful chunky weight shawl. It's a bulky weight, shall I say. And
Could you hold it up again? Because
Sure.
is coming on.
Oh yeah, there you go. It's a super easy knit.
What's it called again?
This one's called Wool Weaver, and it's by While They Play Designs. And if you haven't heard of Kelley Hudson before, she has her own website that is While They Play Designs, or you can also get it on Ravelry. And this is a paid for pattern. And I decided to do a chunky weight one just because this bulky weight one is, some people had said it was rather heavy. And so I don't want that. For me, I wouldn't wear that. So I made a lighter weight version, and I'm just working on mine. Oh my gosh, I'm loving it so far. Let's see if I can show you. And I'm halfway through because I wanted to show a couple skills. And you see how pretty it is? So I wanted to talk about 4 different trends that we have for 2022 fall. And one of the trends is a lot of texture. And if you look at this shawl, you see it has baubles on it, and then it's going to have fringe on it too. So that gives the shawl a lot of texture. And so I was going to do a lighter weight version of it because another trend for fall is those little kind of keyhole scarves, more like the choker type look, is very popular right now, and it's going to be for this fall. So I thought maybe if I can make mine a little bit toned down, a little bit smaller version of the beautiful project that Kelley has designed, then I can enjoy her design and still have something that's quite trendy. And if you didn't want to follow the trends, you could also use, we have this Malabrigo, and it's called Rasta. And you can see the beautiful hand paint colorways. And this is a merino word. Yeah, it's a merino bulky weight yarn, single ply. And it would be beautiful to make the shawl out of.
Hey, Kelley. So lots of people coming online. And
Hi, good morning, everyone.
Good morning. So maybe prayers for Meg because she has
pneumonia. Yes. Oh, Meg, who helps us out on every Technique Tuesday and many other times in between, is sick with pneumonia. So prayers for her. And Meg, I hope you get better soon. And my prayers are with you as well as we go along here. And so you guys don't forget to post where you're from, maybe what you're working on. If you have a beautiful pattern that you really love, if you post that in the comment sections, you get entered to win the prize. And for this week, I have some lovely vintage chunky, since that's what I'm knitting my shawl out of. It is a wool acrylic blend, and it's quite nice. And I thought we could choose 2 different grays, the lighter gray or the darker gray. And you guys choose, and we can send that out for next week. But this is a great yarn.
Code for it too, right?
Yes, and there is Jim said there is a code for it. And I'm looking, the discount code is TT9227 if you wanted to get some 10% off discount code for today only for the vintage chunky. So use that code, and I think Meg may be posting that in the comments if she's well enough to be able to do that. Thank you very much, Meg, and I'm so sorry you're not feeling well. That is not good. I know when I came home from our vacation, I was very tired too. And so, but I am doing better now, getting back to my normal routine, and really enjoyed going to that lovely wedding. It's so nice to see people who have such a zest for life and are just going out with, grab life by the horns. It was really neat to watch them. So very inspiring, making Jim and I want to get up and go for it. Just, grab a little more life. And so that was a great
They were in their
reminder
30s,
for
right?
us.
The kids,
Yes, they're
late 20s,
young
30s.
young ladies and gentlemen, and
PhDs.
they were all going to Ivy League schools and PhDs. So they're really hardworking group of young people, and they were very inspiring to Jim and I. Beautiful wedding too. So for this last week, we had our prize was in between this dos tijeras. No, it wasn't this dos tijeras, was it, Jim?
Yeah, it was English Garden or the other blue one.
It wasn't Matisse blue, was it? It was a different blue. But the winning color was this English rose, and I called it English Garden, but it's actually called English Rose. So this was the winning color for this week. And then again, the vintage chunky in the light gray or dark gray for this week's prize to be for. What I love about this yarn is it is a plied yarn. It's very sturdy. It's a workhorse yarn. It's not too hot. You can make heavier weight items out of it and still be able to wear it because it's not 100% wool. If you look at the composition on this yarn, it's 52% acrylic, 40% wool, and 8 nylon. So you have some nice warming effects as well as being durable, and just a really nice workhorse yarn. So and it's not itchy at all. So it does have wool in there and it's not itchy. So I like that because I don't like to wear projects that are too itchy or projects that are too hot. So, and
you mentioned that for the one that you said the fall fashion around the neck.
Yes, and this was why I'm making mine out of the vintage chunky, because I can wrap it around my neck and it won't bother me at all, not at all. And so yeah, let's continue on with our the 4 trends for the fall knitting of 2022. So the having texture is a huge thing. I don't know if you can see this. This is a new sweater that came out by Stephen West, and you can find it on Ravelry. I forget the name of it. He has leg warmers, a hat. It's Dustland, the Dustland cardigan. Yeah. And I've made a few of those items already. It's totally awesome. So another thing that is very popular is vests. And I really like this vest by Irene Lynn. Isn't it cute? It's so cute. I want to make it. This was made out of a silk blend, and it's like a summery name, but you could easily do it for the winter time if you make it out of a little bit of wool and silk.
Why is it? Oh, it has buttons in the front?
No, it doesn't have buttons. It has bobbles and cables and fluffy little sleeves. It's really cute. And the oversized look is still very popular. This was another pattern by Irene Lynn called the Acacia Cardigan. And I like this one too. And that is one that I purchased that I want to do.
I think I'm going to have to order new ink.
I know. Poor Jim. My husband said he thinks he might have to order more ink. Well, I try my best to only do like the first page, like the front page I'll do in a color copy and the rest I do in black and white, but I do use quite a bit of paper. But my husband is so patient. You all need a husband like mine because he's very patient with my printing out documents and using up ink very quickly. Unfortunately. But we have fun while we're doing it. So I wanted to take a look at what's so cool about this wool weavers pattern and show you they have Kalora is using a bauble that's a very simple bauble for chunkier and bulky weight yarns that I thought was kind of cool. And then in here you'll see like a little dot. You see the little dot? Those are just knit stitches. So I added my own flair to it and made a stitch that's not quite a bauble, but that shows up a little bit more than this knit stitch because I'm using lighter weight yarn, but I wanted the same pop as she has on hers. So I decided to make something that looks kind of similar to the bauble, but is not too much like the bubble. So I wanted to show you those real quick because they're really cool. And I can show you on her pattern how easy. Sorry, sweetheart, did I just move that? Sorry. My husband's very patient with me. So first I wanted to show you on the back, on this one row, we're using just going across using this different color of yarn. And you can see right here is an example of where I've interlocked. And so I wanted to show you a few little skills that you can learn while you're doing this pattern, but just how wonderful and easy it is. So on here, this is one of the baubles that I have just completed. And then I have, and you don't ever want to interlock your stitches while you're doing your bauble. Don't do that. It'll just cause grief. So what you really want to do is wait until one stitch after the bauble. And by interlocking, I'm saying catch the yarn back here so you don't have great big open loops that you can get your hands stuck in. And I always tell mine when I'm going to interlock a yarn, I go, this is the old yarn that I was using, and now this is the new yarn that I'm going to be using. Now I'm going to take the old yarn and pull it off. Do you see how it's going to interlock it in the back there? And so I'm going to go one, and then you just give that just a tiny little tug like that. And then you go another. And then on this one, again, old yarn wraps around, new yarn wraps around, and then you take the old yarn off. Isn't that cool? So now I have 3, and you can see that it's interlocked back there, and it'll look great. So now I am ready to do one of these little stitches, which is not exactly a bauble, but similar to the bauble, kind of bauble-ish, to kind of make this stitch stand out a little bit more, but not be exactly like this bauble. So I'll show you what I did. I drop the white yarn and grab my blue yarn. And when you do these baubles, you're going to do a knit, yarn over, knit. And here's where it becomes different. I turn my work, and then instead of purling across, I'm just going to simply purl 3 together. Okay, so now I'm going to turn back to the front again. And I want this to turn this way, so the pretty part stays in front. So I'm going to keep my working yarn in back, and I'm just going to scoop that back leg and bring it forward so the pretty part of that stitch actually shows. So that's all you do to do that. And then I'm going to knit 3 more stitches according to my chart. 1, and then when I want to interlock and I'm carrying my old yarn in my left hand, I can simply go underneath that old yarn and just catch it. Do you see how it caught it back there? Isn't that cool? And one more, you can see how it's going to catch it again right there on that stitch without doing anything extra. Now I'm going to drop the green yarn, or the blue, whatever you want to call it, and I'm going to do this bauble that looks beautiful with bulky weight yarns. It's not as, usually a lot of the baubles have 5 stitches that you create out of 1 stitch, and they work that way, but this bauble only has 3. So you go knit, yarn over, knit into that 1 stitch. Then you turn your work, and then what you do is you purl 1, 2, 3. Then you turn your work. My paper was wanting to fall on the ground. Then you go ahead and knit 1, 2, 3. We're still working on our bauble. And then you bind the second stitch over the first stitch 2 times. So now you're back to 1 stitch and your bauble is complete. Okay, so then now I want to interlock this blue yarn because I don't want it to get too far away. So I go old yarn, new yarn, and old yarn goes off because I want to knit with that new yarn, right? And I'll do that one more time. Old yarn, new yarn, old yarn goes off. And you just give that a little pull there. And I'm getting all tangled up. So now I'm ready for this blue bubble. Actually, it's not quite a bubble. It's just kind of a fancy stitch I kind of made up instead of having a knit stitch. So we go 1, 2, 3. So I made 3 stitches out of 1. Turn my work. And my yarn's getting tighter and tighter because it's getting tangled. I had it all untangled, but you know, it just kind of gets. And what you don't want to do is you don't want to split the yarn on this part. You want to be able to pull that stitch out freely. And then when you come back here, the only thing that you do is you grab that back leg and bring it forward. So that back leg is now in the front. And do you see how it's going to make the pretty part right in front? Do you see that, Jim? Isn't that cool? And then again, 1. And then I'll interlock that blue. And the next stitch will do it on its own. And then I'm going to be doing the white. I wanted to be able to get all the way to the end, but my yarns are not being nice. They're trying to tangle all together. So I dropped the blue, and I'm going to do that the bobble again. So knit, yarn over, knit into that 1 stitch, turn your work. And again, this is a bobble that is great for bulky weight yarns. So if you haven't done a bobble like this before and you have problems doing bobbles, you might want to try this one because I think you might like it. So I purled 3. Now I'm going to go ahead and knit 3. And then to finish this lovely bobble off, I bind off the 2nd stitch over the 1st stitch 2 times. And then my bobble is complete. Isn't that cool? So that is how you do that. And then at the end here, we don't have any blue right at the very end here. So it's okay. You don't have to carry this. You can just leave that right there. What I wanted to show you that is really cool about this pattern is she uses, Kalora Hudson uses these slip stitches. And how you get this long elongated stitch right here and right here is every other row, you are just slipping that stitch and it pulls it, makes it longer. Isn't that a pretty decoration? Don't you like it, Jim?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. So, but then on the knit side, all we do is do that yarn over and then we go ahead and knit that stitch. And then on the wrong side is where you would go. If I turn this, watch. If I turn this like this, the edge is garter stitch, which means you knit those 2 stitches. And this is another thing that I love about this pattern. It's so easy to memorize. So when you're coming back on the wrong side of your work, all you do is put your working yarn in front and slip that stitch. And then on the right side, you would knit it. Isn't that cool, Jim?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's all you do to do that. And then you would purl all these all the way back. And let's see if I can just get enough yarn to just purl some of these bobbles just a little bit so we can take a look at it. And you can see how beautiful it is. Now, I just started working on this. What time was it last night, Jim? Was it? It was pretty late.
8 o'clock or something?
Yeah. And so all this work that I've done was about 2 hours worth of work. And so this is a pretty quick knit is what I'm saying about that. So I'm just going to do a couple more stitches and we'll turn this to the right side of the work so you can see how lovely that is. And I'm thinking that I will be using probably no more than 2 skeins of the white and 1 of the blue to do the whole project. See it forming, and you can see that's that bobble right there. Isn't that going to be cute? Isn't that cute, Jim? Yeah. So this is a really cute shawl. And if you're feeling like you want to take a break like me and not work on a super complicated pattern, because maybe you just want to be able to relax, you could go ahead and do Kalora Hudson's pattern. This is a brand new pattern that just came out. And like I said, it's a paid for pattern, and you can find it on While They Play Designs, or you can find it on Ravelry, either one. It's the same price for both places. So you don't get, there's not an advantage unless you just want the designer to get full amount of money for her pattern. You can buy it from her website.
So
And
there's a
she does
question
a
for
great
you,
job.
too.
Yes, honey?
So their question was, so we can repeat it, but if
Sure.
they, what if they don't like bubbles? If they don't like bubbles, then they put other things in, or what do you do?
You could
So
do,
repeat it.
Jim said, what if you don't like baubles? Can you put in other patterns? You absolutely could do whatever you want. Maybe you could do a cable there, or in a different, or a slip stitch pattern or something. You can get creative and you can make it your own. I mean, there is nothing that is written in stone that you can't follow whatever. But I'm telling you, these little tiny baubles are pretty easy. They're easier than the normal baubles, which I kind of like, and they don't stick out that much. If you look at it right here on
Just
my,
adds that texture.
yeah, it just adds texture. And if you could see the texture on here, can you see it, Jim?
Yeah.
It adds texture without it being too difficult. So you might want to try it. Maybe you'll like this bauble because it's easier to do. I don't know, but I can tell you, you could also do the chunky version in this Malabrigo Rasta. And this is a superwash merino that is a fantastic yarn. It's a little on the expensive side, so your shawl would be, a little bit expensive, but not that expensive compared to what bulky yarn usually costs. I think this right now for us is $23, and it's a hand painted yarn. So, and it is 90 yards, which is really good.
Prices, so it might be
Oh yeah,
higher.
it might go up a little more. Anyway, I would love to see it in that. It's just, I didn't want a shawl that's kind of super heavy because I won't wear it. Yeah. So
Are there other four things?
I think I covered them all. The hairy and fuzzy is still very popular. So mohair, things like that. Or you could just choose a yarn. Any of these yarns, when they're washed, this Dos Tierra, when it's washed, has a bit of halo to it as well. And Sueno, which is one of my favorite yarns, that has a great halo to it when it's washed too. So you don't necessarily have to use mohair if you don't want to. If you're like me, I'm too sensitive. My skin, it'll break out, and I'll break out in hives. So I cannot use mohair, but a lot of people can. Maybe they have skin of iron. I am not. I do not have skin of iron. My skin is sensitive. You put the wrong thing near it and it turns into a rash. Unlucky me. And my poor daughter, she has it even worse than I do. Darn. So again, the 4 trends for fall 2022 was the texture, all over texture. And it was like, this was the Stephen West pattern. And that is a paid for pattern as well. And then the vests are still very popular, especially ones like this from Irene Lynn. And then keyhole scarves are really popular too. Now, when I did a search on Ravelry, I could not find a ton of keyhole scarves. But what I mean by like that is when you can make your scarves that you're knitting kind of like chokers kind of around your neck. That's a very popular look for the fall of 2022, for this fall. Those are all great ideas. And maybe we don't necessarily need to go by all the fashion trends, but maybe if we're doing gifts for people, people might like to have the more trendy stuff for that time. So yes, again, if you guys could vote on this vintage chunky in the light gray or dark gray for next week, 2 skeins. And this was that, it's called Vintage Chunky by Barocco, and it is an acrylic wool blend. That's really nice. And then the winning color for this week was English Rose. And this is Dos Tierras, which is a 50-50 blend of merino wool and alpaca.
Malabrigo, right?
Yeah. It's by Malabrigo. It's hand painted. I really like it. Do you see how pretty it is? I love Dos Tierras. I love it, especially on my feet. And like this Matisse blue is beautiful. See how beautiful it is? It's a great yarn. I've used it for a lot of different socks and color work and socks and hats and stuff like that too. So the winner of this lovely Dos Tierras is Karen Netzband. And this, Karen, congratulations. You won the Dos Tierras in this lovely English Rose colorway. So all you have to do is get in contact with us at Alpaca Direct and give us your shipping address and we can get it out in the mail to you. So I hope you all have a great week. I was thinking for this next week, I'm still going to be working on projects for the winter wear, and I was also looking at different ways to wear scarves. So if I am able to finish my scarf, and we can take a look at how to tie it in different ways to make it look really cute. So I hope you all have a great week, and I will see you next Tuesday.